Welcome to a moment of calm. You don't need to do anything. Just get comfortable, breathe slowly, and let this story gently guide you to sleep. Let us know in the comments how many minutes it took you to fall asleep. Sweet dreams. True silence does not appear when everything around you stops. It appears when you decide to stop feeding the noise that lives inside your mind. Many people discover this at the most uncomfortable moment, when they lie down, close their eyes, and the external world disappears. It is then that the mind takes control and begins to speak without pause. You try to sleep, but thoughts return again and again. They replay past conversations, mistakes you believe you made, words you did not say, decisions you doubt were correct. Then the mind jumps to the future, anticipating problems, imagining scenarios, creating worries that do not yet exist. In that moment, the body is tired, but the mind remains alert, as if it needed to guard something invisible. This experience is not new. The Stoics already understood it more than 2,000 years ago. They knew that much of human suffering does not come from what happens, but from what the mind anticipates. Anxiety is born when we mentally live in a time that has not yet arrived. We suffer from pains that may never appear. Sleeping without anxiety is not simply about shutting down the body. It is a mental process. It is learning to inhabit the present without demanding guarantees from a future that cannot provide them. The anxious mind does not fear tomorrow itself. It fears not being able to control it. And that desire for control is the deep root of emotional insomnia. From the Stoic perspective, reality itself does not disturb us, but the interpretation we make of it. Two people can face the same uncertainty and experience it in completely different ways. One rests. The other is consumed by thoughts. The difference is not the situation, but the relationship each one has with their thoughts. The problem appears when we believe that thinking more will give us more control. But the opposite happens. The more we try to mentally solve everything before sleep, the more agitated the mind becomes. Silence feels uncomfortable because it leaves space for what we avoided during the day. For the Stoic, the mind should not be silenced by force. It must be understood. Thoughts are not enemies. They are natural movements of consciousness. The mistake lies in identifying with them, in believing that every thought is a truth that demands immediate attention. The anxious mind is like a restless animal. If you try to dominate it with violence, it resists. If you observe it calmly, it begins to settle. Stoicism teaches precisely this: to take the reins without tension, to guide without repression. Sleeping calmly does not mean eliminating thoughts, but stopping the fight against them, allowing them to appear and disappear without judging them, without following them, without turning them into stories. When you do this, something changes. The mind begins to let go. Deep rest arrives when you understand that nothing needs to be resolved at that moment, that the night does not demand answers, that you do not have to understand everything before closing your eyes. Serenity is not born from control, but from acceptance. This is the first Stoic lesson for overcoming nighttime anxiety, recognizing that inner noise cannot be turned off from the outside. It quiets when you stop feeding the illusion that everything must be under control. When you accept that the present is enough, the mind begins to surrender. And it is there, in that moment of conscious surrender, where silence stops being a threat and becomes a refuge. Nighttime anxiety intensifies when the mind tries to do what does not belong to it, controlling what cannot be controlled. During the day, this illusion goes unnoticed because movement, tasks, and external noise distract us. But when night arrives and everything becomes quiet, the attempt at control is exposed. The mind begins to ask endlessly, what if something bad happens tomorrow? What if I'm not prepared? What if I lose what I have? These questions do not seek real answers. They seek absolute certainty, and that certainty, in a changing world, does not exist. Stoicism identifies this point as one of the main sources of human suffering. There is an essential distinction that we rarely apply honestly. There are things that depend on us and things that do not. When this boundary becomes blurred, the mind becomes overloaded. It assumes responsibilities that are not its own. It feels obligated to anticipate, foresee, and resolve even what lies beyond its reach. Before sleep, this confusion becomes more evident. The body wants to rest, but the mind keeps working as if it still had to protect something. It believes that if it stays alert, it will prevent future pain. However, that constant effort does not prevent suffering. It creates it. The Stoic understands that uncertainty is not an enemy. It is a natural condition of existence. Resisting it is exhausting. Accepting it, on the other hand, frees an enormous amount of mental energy. Sleeping calmly begins when you stop demanding that the future guarantee your safety. The anxious mind does not rest because it believes that letting go is dangerous. It believes that lowering its guard is irresponsible. But Stoicism teaches that there is a time to act and a time to surrender. The night belongs to this second moment, not because everything is resolved, but because nothing can be resolved from tension. Trying to control thoughts before sleep usually has the opposite effect. The more you push them away, the more they return. The more you fight them, the stronger they become. The problem is not the presence of thoughts, but the relationship you establish with them. The Stoic does not identify with every idea that crosses the mind. He learns to observe it as a passing phenomenon. A thought appears, moves, and disappears. It does not need to be followed. It does not need to be corrected. It does not need to be believed. This simple observation naturally reduces inner noise. When you understand that not every thought is an order, the mind begins to relax. It stops reacting automatically. It learns to remain. That stillness is the foundation of deep rest. Nighttime anxiety is often a sign that not enough was released during the day. Tensions, expectations, frustrations accumulated. The mind reaches the night loaded with unresolved matters, not because they must be resolved, but because they were not accepted. Accepting does not mean resigning. It means recognizing the limits of control. It means saying internally, "This does not depend on me now." This mental act, repeated consistently, re-educates the mind. It teaches it that not everything requires immediate intervention. Stoicism does not seek to eliminate uncertainty, but to live with it without fear. Sleeping without anxiety is a direct consequence of this coexistence. When you accept that you cannot control the course of life, but you can control your response to it, the mind stops tensing. Rest appears when you understand that the night is not the time to solve life. It is the time to let it go. And only when you release the desire for control does the mind begin to trust. This is the second Stoic lesson for sleeping in peace, recognizing that emotional insomnia is not born from a lack of answers, but from an excess of control. When you renounce governing what does not belong to you, calm begins to take its place. When night arrives and the external world shuts down, many people feel an unease that is difficult to explain. It is not fear of darkness, nor of fatigue, nor even of insomnia itself. It is the fear of being alone with one's own mind. During the day, noise, obligations, and distractions act as a barrier. But when night falls, that barrier disappears and the mind begins to speak more clearly. The usual reaction to this inner dialogue is to try to silence it, forcing oneself to think about something else, distracting oneself with screens, fighting uncomfortable thoughts. However, Stoicism teaches something radically different. Inner silence is not achieved by battling the mind, but by understanding it. The thoughts that appear before sleep are not enemies. They are the reflection of a mind that has accumulated stimuli, emotions, and tensions throughout the day. When you try to expel them, they resist. When you observe them without judgment, they begin to lose strength. The Stoic understands that whatever is observed clearly ceases to dominate. Observing without judgment does not mean approving or rejecting. It means watching a thought as one watches a cloud cross the sky. You do not stop it. You do not follow it. You simply acknowledge its passage. This attitude, seemingly simple, has a profound effect. The mind learns that it does not need to react to everything that appears. Nighttime anxiety feeds on identification. We believe that we are our thoughts, that every idea that arises is an urgent truth that demands immediate resolution. Stoicism breaks this identification. It teaches that thoughts are mental events, not commands. They appear and disappear on their own when they are not fed. When you adopt this posture, silence stops being a threat. It becomes a safe space, a place where you do not need to defend yourself, justify yourself, or resolve anything. Silence becomes a refuge, not a judgment. Many fear silence because they believe it will bring painful memories, guilt, or fears. And sometimes it does. But the Stoic does not flee from what appears. He observes it. He understands that what hurts does not intensify by being seen, but by being avoided. Resistance prolongs suffering. Observation dissolves it. Before sleep, the mind often reviews the day. It points out mistakes, exaggerates failures, anticipates consequences. This tendency is not malice, it is habit. Stoicism proposes transforming that habit through awareness. Instead of reproaching yourself, you observe. Instead of punishing yourself, you recognize. Instead of demanding perfection, you accept humanity. Conscious observation does not seek to improve the past or correct it. It seeks to understand it and release it. The day has already ended. Nothing can be changed now. Insisting on reviewing it harshly brings no clarity, only exhaustion. Rest arrives when you accept that the present does not demand repair, only surrender. Nighttime silence also reveals what you are attached to. Recurrent thoughts often point to attachment, to outcomes, to expectations, to the image you wish to maintain. The Stoic uses this information wisely. He does not blame himself for attachment. He recognizes it. And by recognizing it, he begins to release it. Letting go is not forgetting. It is stopping the carrying. It is allowing things to occupy the place that belongs to them. The past does not need to be relived every night. The future does not need to be anticipated before it exists. The present, however, needs to be inhabited. The mind rests when it understands that it has nothing to defend. Anxiety is, to a large extent, a form of vigilance, an unnecessary vigilance. The body is safe. The moment is sufficient. The night does not demand action. When the mind understands this, it lowers its guard. Stoicism teaches that calm is not forced. It is allowed. It is not imposed. It is cultivated. Each night is an opportunity to train this disposition, not by seeking absolute silence, but by learning to coexist with noise without being dragged by it. When you observe your thoughts without judging them, something unexpected happens. The mind begins to trust. It no longer feels the need to shout to be heard. Little by little, the internal rhythm softens. Thoughts space out. Breathing deepens. The body follows this natural movement. Sleeping without anxiety is not a passive act. It is a conscious practice of surrender, surrendering control, surrendering demands, surrendering inner struggle. Not because everything is fine, but because now is not the moment to resolve it. Silence then stops being emptiness. It becomes presence, a calm, spacious, stable presence. In that space, rest arises effortlessly, not as a conquest, but as a consequence. This is the third Stoic lesson for sleeping in peace, transforming the relationship with the mind, moving from struggle to observation, from fear to understanding, from resistance to acceptance. When you do this, silence no longer confronts you, it supports you. Understanding the mind is only the beginning. Real calm is not sustained by ideas alone, but by repeated habits. Stoicism was always clear about this. Serenity does not appear by chance, it is trained. And the night was one of the most important moments for that inner training. Before sleep, the mind is often saturated, not because the day was excessively difficult, but because no conscious space was created to release it. Worries do not disappear on their own. They accumulate when they are not acknowledged. For this reason, the Stoics reserved a moment at the end of the day to review and release. The first practice is the nightly journal. It is not about writing well, but about emptying the mind. Putting thoughts on paper takes away their power. What is written stops spinning without control. Before sleep, write down what disturbed you, what was under your control, and what was not. By doing this, you return each thing to its proper place. After writing, do not analyze further. Night is not a courtroom. It is a space for rest. Close the notebook with a simple phrase. This no longer belongs to me today. Repeated consistently, this phrase teaches the mind to let go. The second practice is conscious visualization. For a few moments, remember that everything you have is temporary, not to generate fear, but gratitude. When you understand that nothing is guaranteed, the mind stops demanding. It appreciates instead of clinging. This awareness reduces anxiety because fear only grows where attachment is rigid. The third practice is the conscious pause. Before going to bed, stop activity. Turn off unnecessary lights. Sit or lie down in silence. Internally repeat, I am here now. Do not seek a special state. Just remain. Thoughts will appear, and that is fine. Do not follow them. Do not push them away. Observe them and let them pass. Another essential tool is conscious inner dialogue. Many people speak harshly to themselves at the end of the day. Stoicism proposes the opposite, speaking to oneself with clarity and respect. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? What can I let go of now? These questions do not seek judgment, but guidance. Gratitude also plays a key role. Before sleep, recognize 3 things you can be grateful for, not as forced optimism, but as recognition of the present. The anxious mind focuses on what is missing. Gratitude trains it to see what remains. The body accompanies the mind. That is why conscious breathing is part of the ritual. Inhale slowly, exhale, and allow the body to relax. Each exhalation is an act of surrender. The body lets go when the mind stops resisting. These practices do not eliminate anxiety immediately. They build trust. Trust that not everything must be resolved today. Trust that the present is enough. Over time, the night stops being a struggle and becomes a conscious closing of the day. This is the fourth Stoic lesson, transforming the night into discipline, not to control the mind, but to care for it. When the mind feels heard, it stops insisting. And when it stops insisting, rest arrives effortlessly. There comes a point on the path when night stops being a challenge. Not because life has become simpler, nor because problems have disappeared, but because the relationship with the mind has changed. There is no longer a constant struggle to control what appears. There is understanding. And in that understanding, rest becomes possible. Sleeping without anxiety does not mean that thoughts no longer exist. It means that they no longer rule. They appear, but they do not command. They show themselves, but they do not demand. The mind gradually learns that it does not need to solve life before closing its eyes. It learns to trust. True calm is born when you accept that the present is enough. That this moment, exactly as it is, does not need correction. Anxiety is often the mind saying, "This should not be this way." Serenity, instead, arises when you respond. "This is what is, and I can be at peace here." Stoicism teaches that peace does not depend on eliminating uncertainty, but on stopping the fight with it. The night does not ask for guarantees. It does not demand answers. It only invites release. When you understand this, the body relaxes and the mind surrenders. Sleep then becomes an act of freedom. Freedom from constant demands. Freedom from internal judgment. Freedom from the need for control. You do not sleep to escape the world. You sleep to reconcile with it. Many fear silence because they believe it will bring reproaches, memories, or fears. But silence does not create these contents. It only reveals them. And when you learn to listen without surrendering to them, they lose their power. What is observed with serenity ceases to intimidate. Nighttime anxiety is often resistance to the present. It is the mind clinging to how things should be. The Stoic does not deny the desire for change, but understands that inner struggle against reality is unnecessary. Accepting is not giving up. It is stopping the waste of energy on what cannot be changed now. When you accept, the mind rests, not because everything is resolved, but because it understands that it has nothing to defend. Rest arrives when you recognize your smallness before life, but also your greatness in accepting it. Sleeping well is a learning process, not a skill imposed, but a trust cultivated. Each night is an opportunity to practice. It does not matter if yesterday you failed. It does not matter if today the mind becomes restless again. What matters is returning, again and again, to the center. The body responds to this attitude. Breathing becomes deeper, muscles loosen, the internal rhythm softens. Sleep is not forced. It arrives. And when it arrives, it is not an escape but a full presence. Sleeping without anxiety is an act of love toward yourself. It is telling yourself, I do not need to demand more from myself today. I do not need to carry everything now. I can rest. That permission is a form of wisdom. Stoic philosophy is not studied only with the mind. It is lived with the body and the soul. It is practiced when the noise feels loudest, when silence feels uncomfortable, when night reveals what day hides. And it is there that it proves its value. When you close your eyes from this understanding, something aligns. The mind stops narrating tragedies. The body stops resisting. The present holds you. There is nothing to prove. There is nothing to control. If some night anxiety returns, do not punish yourself. Even the sages had restless nights. What matters is not never falling, but returning. Returning to observation. Returning to acceptance. Returning to calm. Each conscious breath is a silent victory. Each thought you do not follow is an act of freedom. Each night in which you choose to let go is a step toward serenity. Silence, finally, stops being an enemy. It becomes a teacher. It teaches you that you do not need to flee from yourself to be at peace. That calm is not outside waiting to be found. It lives within, waiting to be allowed. Tonight, do not try to sleep. Surrender. Allow the present to embrace you. Surrender is not weakness. It is conscious strength. And when the mind learns to trust, rest arrives as it always should have, effortlessly. Sleeping without anxiety is not turning off the mind. It is illuminating it with understanding. And in that gentle light, sleep becomes a home.